Hello and welcome to Efurd Garage Talks. Now today, this subject's going to be fuel filters, and not just any fuel filter, but this one right here. And this one right here is a glass filter. Now I know what people are saying. Those are junk, they're trash, they'll always cause a fire, etc, etc, etc. And they say the same thing about these little plastic fuel filters. And I'm going to tell you the truth. I've been running both for over 20 years. Never had an issue. And I'm using this trick as an example of what not to do. Because this is not mine. This one was brought to me this way. Now this is a really prime example of what not to do. So they installed this filter here. Look how close it is to this vacuum on the thermostat here. All it's got to do is bounce. Tick, 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 tick. And eventually you know what will happen. This is a prime example of what not to do. Now this glass is actually pretty thick and solid. This needs to be relocated and it can be used. Now this one is on my daily driver. Yes, it's driven every day. And I have it here. Alright. No matter how hard you move it, it's not going to hit anything that's going to cause that glass to break. It's away from heat sources, and there's no possible way for it to hit anything anywhere. And that's kind of the point. Even if it were to hit the valve cover, the rubber hose is hidden. It's free and clear of hitting anything and causing this to eventually crack. And I will say, the filter on my daily driver is roughly about 15 years old. It's an older one. I've had it for a while. Now, there are some common mistakes, like putting different clamps on here with different, one's Phillips, one's flathead, so they have switch tools. Hang on. Alright, now we're back. So as I was saying, there's some things that people don't do that can really, well, I'm just going to be honest. Usually the reason why these fail and people have problems is install error. A lot of people aren't going to like me saying that, but 9 times out of 10, it's install failure. And I'll explain why. One is, on these right here, some people want to try to use those factory crappy little spring clamps that don't seal very well, and they don't really tighten around these very well. And to attribute to that, same thing could be said with these clamps. Now, unless you get these tight enough, what will happen is, if one or both of these are loose enough, and it's fairly fresh on there, and the rubber hose hadn't, like, you know, glued itself to it, then what can happen is, if this gets enough room to move, it can break loose. Now let's be honest, this one that came on this truck was not very tight. Now on mine, I cannot go over there and go whoop and take mine loose right now if I wanted to. See, it's got these right here so you can put a wrench on and tighten it down. So let's take this off here. It's pretty thick glass. Yes? And you know, people put glass in the oven and bake with it and all that good stuff. Not uncommon to use glass in certain spots. Very common. Now I will say I like these filters because, one, I usually run one of these on the frame down below before the pump so nothing gets in the pump and trashes it. And then this one's up here usually, like on this I'd probably have it there, to where I can see the fuel, I can see how much is there, I can see if there's any particles floating, I can see a change in the color of the fuel. Tells me several things I need to know. But the install error of these is a problem. Like I said, not having these clamps, these worm clamps tight enough, or using those spring clamps, because if that gets moved, which this was tight enough, but this wasn't, which is the second thing, If it comes loose right here at the hose and that starts to move, well, it can start to break that loose and either be fuel here or around the glass. And these do have a rubber seal, which sometimes you just eventually need to replace them, like anything that's rubber under the hood. It's pretty standard, and that's another reason why they fell. Because not only is that not tight, that's not tight. Some of these been on there so long. And here's another thing. Mine's daily driven. There's constantly fuel in it. Now some people don't drive their old stuff all the time or enough. And that rubber down there will do what? Dry out, crack, and all that good stuff. And then what happens? Then it leaks. So, location also has a play part in that as well, because where does it start to leak? If you're right here too close to this, down here, you know, whatever, it can really start a fire. So you got to keep that in mind. Always keep this stuff in mind. So, you know, if you don't drive it very often, you can always put a little bit of oil down in there, seal that off. That way, it shouldn't dry rot and crack for a while. If you're running one, keep tabs on it. Keep tabs on it. If you ride it daily, it's probably going to last a lot longer than someone who doesn't drive their car but 3 times a year. You know, which they probably have other things to worry about at that point. But, yeah, the common misconception of these is install error, maintenance. But overall, if these are really that bad, they wouldn't sell them anymore. Now what I'm going to do, is because you saw this one was right here, I'm going to move it. Because I ain't going to have it bouncing up around on that and cracking and busting. That's not going to be good. It's going to be a bad day. So we're going to move it, put it in a better location. Like I said, one thing is not tighten this enough. As you can see, it's made for 2 inches. So you can loosen it and tighten it. And you can get them pretty daggum tight, which some people just don't do. Probably because it's glass and they're afraid they're going to break it. Now I can't loosen it off by hand now. There we go. Now, to run the lines a little bit more proper. Alright, now that's what I decided on. It's up here, out of the way. It's not going to hit you in the glass or nothing. This really needs to come out for a plug. I don't think he's going to use any of that on this truck. I did turn it a little bit so the hoses weren't hitting these directly. Like I said, it really needs to come out and put a plug in. That'd be the number one thing. But it's set up now. The other thing people don't do is whenever they put new fuel lines on, some people just go, oh, I think it's tight, and done. No, I go a little bit more than when I think it's tight. I make sure it's tight, and then I start it up, let it run, check for leaks, make sure nothing's leaking, nothing's vibrating where it's shaking and can cause damage. And yeah, I understand a lot of people hate the glass filters, had bad experiences with them. But if they were that bad, like I said, they wouldn't sell them anymore. But, you know, you do it right, they'll last. And just like anything, all parts fail eventually. I don't care if it's new car, old car, whatever. Just got to make sure you do your maintenance. And like I said, if they sit longer, whenever you let a car sit, things go bad. So you just gotta think about that, you know. So installation and eventually age, or letting sit and stuff dry rotting, which could go along with age too. But yeah, I know a lot of y'all frown down on that, me using them. It is what it is. I've never had an issue, just because I'm probably OCD and paranoid a little bit to the extent where I'm like, did I tighten that? Let's tighten it up a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. Sometimes I break things over tightening them, but they don't come loose on me. So, you know, there's that. Some people just, and I've seen this. ASE certified technician had worked on my sister's car. And there was a coolant bypass hose And instead of buying the correct factory replacement from GM, which was overpriced, they put a flared fitting on it and a rubber hose with a worm clamp. Acceptable repair. But the ASE certified technician, it leaked. Why? Because he didn't tighten it enough. Oh, well, that's good enough. No, no, no. And some people just do that. So I don't care if you're a new mechanic or experienced mechanic, if you don't tighten up stuff properly, it's going to come back and bite you in the ass. So that's it. Said, some of y'all hate it, some of y'all love them, some of y'all had bad experiences, some have good experiences. But I'm just going to say, most of the time it's because of installation and lack of maintenance, where the problems come from. So I hope you enjoyed this Efurd Garage Talks episode. As always, thanks for watching.